Good evening. As we enter the third decade of the 21st century, I, your Taoiseach-elect, have a duty to address the nation on our 21st Ard Fheis and summarise briefly some of the events in our recent past which have caused intolerable suffering and which must never be repeated. Ireland as a nation has, until recent times, been divided as never before. You will well remember the events which led to a ruthless and self-serving administration, Fianna Fail, being returned to office in June 2007 with the support of Gerry Adams' Sinn Féin party. It was one of the most bizarre and deceptive election campaigns ever, as Bertie Ahern's outlandish re-election promises, none of which ever materialised, eventually swayed the electorate into voting into power a third Fianna Fail administration. Disaster struck almost immediately after the ballot boxes were counted. First, it was a trickle. American multinationals such as 3Com, IBM and Intel had announced plans to move manufacturing facilities here to Singapore, Latvia, India, China and other locations where an educated English-speaking workforce, cheaper electricity and lower labour costs quickly facilitated a smooth transfer of business.
Delivered in government, and when Fianna Fail taxes will be reduced, spending will be controlled, and we believe in low taxation, and unlike others, we have the record to prove it.
The trickle turned to hemorrhage, and the hemorrhage became a flood. Every foreign employer wanted out. It was time to move on. The Celtic tiger was dead. The once frenzied property market was also in free fall and intensified the recession. Wealthy speculators were buying repossessed properties cheap and reletting them to former owners now unemployed. These tenants were for a period recipients of generous rent supplements paid by Fianna Fail. This measure simply enriched the landlord classes. The futile attempt by the government to prop up the creaking property market with mortgage-aided payments for the unemployed was of course funded by the remaining taxpayers. In the end, the escalating costs combined with the narrowing tax revenue meant the exercise had to be abandoned. The tax revenues dried up, bills went unpaid. Thousands were brought before the courts in mass civil disobedience against water and bin taxes caused chaos. There were no prison spaces available for the large number of protesters. The emergency taxation then imposed on the remaining gainfully employed workers in the public sector to help prop up so many unemployed caused nationwide strikes by teachers, civil servants and ESB workers, the highest paid employees in the state. SIP2, Impact and other public sector unions attempted once again to hold the government of the day to ransom. Their wages, perks and index-linked pensions had long been the envy of hard-pressed citizens outside this working-class golden circle of government employees. Their jobs were secure, much to the chagrin of the many unemployed. These strikes were long and divisive. You will recall, as I do, SIP2 organised workers supported by the PD McDowell fascist black shirts parading in our cities and towns. The unemployed private sector workers held counter rallies and fought openly with these public sector employees, whose banners were prominent in the street demonstrations. The new taxes levied on all commodities by Fianna Fail, plus the increased VAT to 25% to pay government employees' wages, were punitive and demoralising. The manufacturing industries had ceased to exist in the country. These street demonstrations ended in bloodshed. There was no emigration outlet for all but the most gifted and highly educated, who were leaving for the USA and Australia as visas became available. The injured rioters and the unemployed sick among the population had no haven. No private hospital would tend to their wounds. Makeshift Red Cross-funded casualty centres were prominent in the larger cities. The public hospital closures had commenced during the reign of the now notorious Health Minister Bertie Ahern, who is still remembered as the Black Madonna due to the numerous deaths in Irish hospitals from the dreaded MRSA virus and the secrecy which had surrounded the scandal for so long. China, now the world's most powerful and influential state, continued to extend its sphere of influence and declared its support for the unemployed Irish workers' families. Funds were dispatched to alleviate the hardship of workers. There were angry exchanges between the US and China at the United Nations. America declared that Europe and Ireland was within their sphere of influence and China had no right interfering. Finally, after many months of street riots, widespread anarchy, the soldiers of destiny, Fianna Fail, bowed to the will of the people massing at the gates of Leinster House, and the government resigned office to make way for new elections.